Tell me when to start.
You can go.
Hello. I have a book to read to you today that is about 50 years old, and I got it at a Chicago bookstall for 35 cents. And my husband said, if you hadn't acted like you wanted to have the book so much, you could have gotten it for a quarter. But this is one of the better pieces of money I've ever spent. Ogden Nash, and I'm reading his poems today. And I'm going to start with one of my very, very favorites. Um, and it's called, What's the Matter? Haven't you got any sense of humor anyway? There's one thing I would less rather have in the neighborhood than a gangster, and that thing is a practical prankster. I feel that we should differ more sharply than Montagues and Capulets or York and Lancaster, me and a practical prankster. If there is a concentration camp in Limbo, that is a spot for which I would nominate them. Not because I don't like them, but simply because I abominate them. The born practical jokester starts out in early youth by offering people a chair, and when they sit down, it isn't there. And he is delighted and proceeds to more complicated wheezes, such as 10-cent x-rays to see through people's clothes with, and powders to give them itches and sneezes. And his boutonniere is something that people get squirted out of the eye with. And their beds are what he makes apple pie out of. Then, as he matures, he widens his scope, and he is no longer content to present people with exploding cigars and chocolate creams with soap centers. So he dresses up as an Oriental potentate and reviews the British fleet, or collects a little group of kin spirits and a few pickaxes and a street closed sign and digs up a busy street. Oh, and if people are jumpy about their past or present private lives, he hints that he is writing their memoirs, and he's devoting an entire chapter to their particular skeleton. And finally, he reaches the apex of his career when he slips into somebody's bathroom and fills up all the modern conveniences with water, and then adds raspberry jello. I have recently read with complete satisfaction of a practical prankster, two of whose friends had just been married, which was, of course, in itself simply a challenge to be harried. And it was a challenge he was eager to meet. And he went to the roof of their hotel and tied a rope around his waist, and a colleague lowered him to where he could clash a pair of cymbals outside the window of their nuptial suite. And he weighed 280 pounds, and the rope broke. And that, to my mind, is the practical joke. The best practical joke. The perfect practical joke. Okay, now let's see what we'll read next. Okay, this is a this is a short one. Taboo to boot. One bliss for which there is no match is when you itch, you up and scratch. I like that one. And then I like so many of his. One of my favorite ones of his is, I think that I shall never see a poem lovely as a tree. In fact, unless the billboards fall, I'll never see a tree at all. Anyway, and now we will go on here to an artisan's conscientiousness. Once there was a man named Mr. Artisan, and his activity was tremendous, and he grudged every minute away from his desk because the importance of his work was so stupendous. And he had one object all sublime, which was to save simply oodles of time. He figured that sleeping 8 hours a night meant that if he lived to be 75, he would have spent 25 years not at his desk, but in his bed. So he cut his slumber to 6 hours, which meant he only lost 18 years and 9 months instead. And he figured that taking 10 minutes for breakfast and 20 minutes for lunch and half an hour for dinner meant that he spent 3 years, 2 months, and 15 days at the table. So that by subsisting solely on bouillon cubes, which he swallowed at his desk to save this entire period, he was able. And he figured that at 10 minutes a day, he spent a little over 6 months and 10 days shaving. So he grew a beard, which gave him a considerable saving. And one might think that now he might have been satisfied, but no, he wore a thoughtful frown because he figured that at 2 minutes a day, he would spend 38 days and a few minutes in the elevator just going up and down. So as a final time-saving device, he stepped out of the window of his office, which happened to be on the 50th floor. And one of his partners said, "Has he vertigo?" And the other glanced up and down and said, "Oh no, only about 10 feet more." Okay, now here's another one for you. This is sort of political. Invocation, and it's in parentheses. Smoot plans tariff ban on improper books, a news item. Senator Smoot, Republican youth, is planning a ban on Smoot on his rooted toot for Smoot of youth and his rubber doxaphood. Smite Smoot, smite for youth. Gird your molars and do your duty. Gird up your loins and sweet hip and thigh. We'll all be in Kansas by and by. And I'm sure a lot of us feel like that when we get all these things these days. And here's one called The Strange Case of the Wise Child. Pendleton Birdsong was a wise child. He knew a hawk from a handsaw and a vaccination from a vacation. He knew which side his bread was buttered on and enough to come in out of the monsoon. At the age of 3, he had mastered the principles of higher mathematics. When attacked by measles, he spent several improving hours in counting his spots and multiplying them by the cube roots of 7, 13, and 129 and 1/2. He could tell anyone who would listen just why parallel lines never meet, or if they do, why they do. He knew the difference between the egoist and an egotist, and a gourmand and a gourmet, and how to make out an income tax return. Pendleton Birdsong was a wise child. He knew his own father. He was all fixed. He said he was a wise child that knew its own father, and he was all fixed. Senator Bohr said, "Oh, he was he? And how about the child as father of the man?" You should have seen Pendleton Birdsong's face. He said he was going home to figure it out. He said you knew how it was about repartee. You never could think of anything to say until you got home. Then it came over you in a flash. Senator Bohr just leered and went off to embarrass the administration. Pendleton Birdsong sat down to uncomplicate the complication. He said, "I am the wise child that knows its own father. Now it seems that I am also father of the man. That means me after I passed through adolescence and enter maturity. Therefore, I am my own father. But I know my own father, and he is not me. Maybe I'd better ask him to make sure." He did, and he said he wasn't. He added that brothers and sisters had he none, but Pendleton Birdsong's father was his father's son. That didn't get anybody anyplace much. Then Pendleton Birdsong remembered that he was not yet a man, so he could not yet be his own father. Furthermore, when he got to be a man, he wouldn't be a child, and it was a child that the man was to be the father of. And furthermore, when he got to be a man, he wouldn't be a wise child, so he wouldn't know his father anymore. The father wouldn't know anymore, would he be himself? But all the time he didn't want to. He caught measles again and read Peter Rabbit instead of counting his spots. Okay. I have read this one to every one of my granddaughters when they turned 30, and it's called A Lady Thinks She is 30. Unwillingly, Miranda wakes, feels the sun with terror. One unwilling step she takes, shuddering to the mirror. Miranda in Miranda's sight is old and gray and dirty. 29 she was last night. This morning she is 30, shining like the morning star, like the twilight shining. Haunted by a calendar, Miranda sits pining. Silly girl, silver girl, draw the mirror toward you. Time who makes the years to whirl, adored as he adored you. Time is timelessness for you, calendars for the human. What's a year or 32? Loveliness made woman. Oh, night will not see 30 again, nor loft her wing, Miranda. Pick up your glass and tell me then, how old is spring, Miranda? Okay. Now, oh, here's one called, gosh, here they come. Some people get savage and bitter when to backbiters they refer, but I just purr. Yet some people consider backbiters to be the rankest of the rank, but frankly, I prefer them to people who go around being frank, because usually when you're backbitten behind your back, you don't know about it and it doesn't leave a trace. But frankness consists of having your back bitten right to your face. But frankness consists of having your back bitten, um, 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 let's see, right to your face. And as if that weren't enough to scar you, why, you are right there in person to scotch the defamation. If you don't happen to be able to scotch it, why, where are you? Frank people are grim, but genuine backbeaters are delightful to have around. Because they are so anxious that if what they have been saying about you has reached your ears, you shouldn't believe it, that they are the most amenable companions to be found. They will entertain you from sunset to dawn and cater encouragingly to all your weaknesses so that they can broadcast them later on. So what if they do gnaw on your spine after enjoying your beer and Skittles? I don't blame them, the least of jots or tittles, because certainly no pastime such diversion lends as talking friends over with friends. So what if they leave your house or you leave theirs? A backbiter strip your flesh and your clothes off. At least it's your back that they bite and not your nose off. I believe in a place where everything and everything is in its place. And I don't care how unkind the things people might say about me, as long as they don't say them to my face. Now, let's see. I've got to skip a one here and get to one I like even better. Oh, here's one I like. It's called Arthur. I don't know why. There was an old man of Calcutta who coated his tonsils with butter, thus converting his snore from a thunderous roar to a soft oleaginous mutter. And then we've got another one here. Song to be sung by the father of infant female children. My heart leaps up when I behold a rainbow in the sky. Contrary rise, my blood runs cold when little boys go by. For little boys as little boys, no special hate I carry, but now and then they grow to men, and when they do, they marry. And when, no matter how they tarry, eventually they marry. And and swine among the pearls. They marry little girls. Oh, somewhere, somewhere, an infant plays with parents who feed and clothe him. Their lips are sticky with pride and praise, but I have begun to loathe him. Yes, I loathe with a loathing shameless this child who to me is nameless. This bachelor child in his carriage gives never a thought to marriage. But a person can hardly say knife before he will hunt him a wife. I never see an infant male sleeping in the sun without I turn a trifle pale and think, is he the one? At first he'll want to crop his curls, and then he'll want a pony, and then he'll think of pretty girls and holy matrimony. He'll put away his pony and sigh for matrimony. A cat without a mouse is he without a spouse. Oh, somewhere, somewhere, he bubbles, bubbles of milk, and quietly sucks his thumbs. And his cheeks are roses painted on silk, and his teeth are tucked up in his gums. But alas, the teeth will begin to grow, and the bubbles will cease to bubble. Given a score of years or so, the roses will turn to stubble. He'll send a bond, write a book, and his eyes will get that acquisitive look, and raging and ravenous for the kill. He'll boldly ask for the hand of Jill. This infant whose middle is diapered still will want to marry my daughter Jill. Oh, sweet be his slumber and moist his middle. My dreams, I fear, are infanticidal. A fig for embryo lone grins. I'm open all his safety pins. I'll pepper his powder and salt his bottle and give him readings from Aristotle. Sand for his spinach I'll gladly bring, and Tabasco sauce for his cleaning ring, and an elegant, elegant alligator to play with in his perambulator. Then perhaps he'll struggle through fire and water to marry somebody else's daughter. Okay. Then I've got one here that I've always liked called Epilogue to Mother's Day. M is for the preliminary $1 million advertising appropriation. O means that she is always white-haired, bespectacled, and at least 85 years old. T is for telegraph message number 31B, which contains a tastefully blended expression of sentiment and congratulation. H is for the Coast Coast questionnaire, which proved conclusively that 7.5 citizens out of every 10 with incomes of $5,000 a year or better would rather have their mother than gold. E is for elephants, which everybody is very glad didn't sit down on their mothers. R is for rosemary, which is for remembrance of the fact that a mother is one thing you will never have more than one of. Put them all together, and before you can say H.C. Wellington Carruthers, they spell the second of two things, that everybody who loves their mother only once a year, and then only at the instigation of the Chamber of Commerce, is a son of. Here's one on the ant. I thought you'd like this one. The ant has made himself illustrious through constant industry industrious. So what? Should you be calm and placid if you were full of formic acid? Excuse me. Oh. Right? Let's see what else we can find here. Here's one called Common Sense. Why did the Lord give us agility, if not to evade responsibility? And here's, this is one that I read to all my children, and they loved it as much as I loved it. And it's called The Tale of Custard the Dragon. Belinda lived in a little white house with a little black kitten and a little gray mouse and a little yellow dog and a little red wagon and a really old, truly old little pet dragon. Where the name of the little black kitten was Ink, and the little gray mouse, she called her Blink, and the little yellow dog was sharp as mustard, but the dragon was a coward, and she called him Custard. Custard the dragon had big, sharp teeth, and spikes on top of him, and scales underneath, mouth like a fireplace, chimney like a nose, and really, oh, truly, oh, daggers on it. Belinda was as brave as a barrel full of bears, and Ink and Blink chased lions down the stairs. Mustard was as brave as a tiger in a cage. Rage and Custard cried for a nice, safe cage. Belinda tickled him unmerciful. Ink, Blink, and Mustard, they rudely called him Percival. They all sat laughing at the little red dragon, at the really old, truly old, cowardly dragon. Belinda giggled till she shook the house, and Blink said, "Week," which is giggling for a mouse. Ink and Mustard rudely asked his age when Custard cried for a nice safe cage. Suddenly, they heard a nasty sound, and Mustard growled, and they all looked around. "Meouch!" cried he, and "Ooh!" cried Belinda, for there was a pirate climbing in the window, pistol in his left hand, pistol in his right, and he held in his teeth a cutlass bright. His beard was black, one leg was wood. It was clear that pirate meant no good. Belinda paled, and she cried, "Help! Help!" But Mustard fled with a terrified yelp. Ink trickled down to the bottom of the household, and Little Mouse Blink strategically mouseholed. But up jumped Custard, snorting like an engine, clashed his tail. I'm sorry. But up jumped Custard, snorting like an engine, clashed his tail like irons in a dungeon. With a clatter and a clank and a jangling squirm, he went at that pirate like a robin at a worm. The pirate gaped at Belinda's dragon and gulped some grog from his pocket flagon. He fired 2 bullets, but they didn't hit, and Custard gobbled him every bit. Belinda embraced him, Mustard licked him. No one mourned for his pirate victim. Ink and Blink in glee to gyrate around the dragon that ate the pirate. Belinda still lives in her little white house with her little black kitten and her little gray mouse and her little yellow dog and her little red wagon and her really old, truly old little pet dragon. Belinda's as brave as a barrel full of bears, and Ink and Blink chase the lions down the stairs. Mustard is as brave as a tiger in a rage, but Custard keeps crying for a nice, safe cage. Okay, now, um, here's one called Gossip. I'm going to have a little drink of water, and here's to you, everybody. There are 2 kinds of people who blow through life like a breeze, and one kind is gossipers, and the other kind is gossipies. They certainly annoy each other, but they certainly enjoy each other. Yes, they pretend to flout each other, but they couldn't do without each other, because gossipers are lost without a thrill and a shock, because they like to sit in rocking chairs and gossip and rock and rock and gossip and gossip and rock. But if the gossipies weren't there to give them a thrill and a shock, their life would be all rocking and no gossip, which would be as flat as music without people named Sasha and Yehudi and Asif. While on the other hand, everybody errs if they think the gossipies could be happy without the gossipers, because you don't have to study under Freud or Eller or Cohn to know that it isn't any fun being a roue if nobody notices you are a roue. And indeed, connoisseurs agree that even gossipers don't know anything about gossip until they have heard one gossiping about another gossipy. Another good thing about gossip is it is within everybody's reach, and it is much more interesting than any other form of speech. Because suppose you eschew gossip and just say, "Mr. Smith is in love with his wife." Well, that disposes of the Smiths as a topic of the conversation for the rest of their life. Um, um, And let's see. Um, Here we have, um, okay, this is called curl up and diet. Some ladies smoke too much, and some ladies drink too much, and some ladies pray too much, but all ladies think they weigh too much. You may be as slender as a sylph or a dryad, but just let them get on the scales and they embark on a doleful Jeremiah. No matter how low the figure the needle happens to touch, they always claim it's at least 5 pounds too much. No matter how underfed you a lady's anatomy seemeth, she described herself as Leviathan or Behemoth. To the world she may appear slinky and feline, but she inspects herself in the mirror and cries, "Oh, I look like a sea lion." Once upon a time there was a girl more beautiful and witty and charming than tongue can tell, and she is now a dangerous raving maniac in a padded cell. And the first indication her friends and relatives had that she was mentally overwrought was one day she said, "I weigh 127, which is exactly what I ought." Oh, often I am haunted by the thought that somebody someday may discover a diet that would let ladies reduce just as much as they wanted. Because I wonder if there's a woman in the world strong minded enough to shed 10 pounds or 20 and say there, "Now that's plenty," and let me 1 pound loss, 1 10 pound loss would only arouse the craving for another. And I wouldn't do any good for ladies to get their ambition and look like somebody's 14-year-old brother, because having accomplished this with ease, they would next want to look like somebody's 14-year-old brother in the final stages of some obscure disease. And the more success you have, the more you want to get of it. And then their goal would be to look like somebody's 14-year-old brother's ghost, or rather not the ghost itself, which is rather solid, but a silhouette of it. So I think it is very nice for ladies to be like and listen, but not so much that you cut yourself if you happen to embrace or kiss them. And here's one you've all heard: candy's dandy, but liquor's quicker. And here's one. Um, let's see. I want to be sure. Oh, here's one that I've always liked very much. Um, my child is phlegmatic, anxious parent. Anxious parent, I guess you've just never been around. I guess you just don't know who are the happiest people anywhere to be found. So you're worried, are you, because your child is turning out to be phlegmatic? Forgive me if I seem a trifle unsympathetic. Why do you want your child to be a flashing, coruscating gem? Don't you know the only peace the world can give lies not in flame, but in phlegm? Don't you know that the people with souls of putty are the only people who are sitting pretty? They never get all worked up at the drop of a pin or a feather or a hat. They never go around saying bitterly to themselves, "Oh God, did I really do? Did I really say that?" They never um, boil over when they read about stool pigeons getting girls into reformatories for making treacherous advances. They never get perfectly futilely harrowed about Sacco and Vanzetti or Alice Adamses who don't have good times at dances. They never blink an eyelash about colleges that are going to the dogs because of football overemphasis. They almost never die with indignation when some colored person is lynched in Natchez or in Memphis. No, when they eat, they digest their food, and when they go to bed, they get right to sleep. And four phlegmatic angels watch you keep. Oh, to be phlegmatic, oh, to be stolid, oh, to be torpid, oh, to be calm. For only thus, the anxious parent, that we can get through life without a qualm. And this one is called Cat Naps Are Too Good for Cats. Oh, early every afternoon, I like a temporary swoon. I do not overeat at lunch. I do not broach the bowl of punch. Yet the hour from 2 to 3 is always sleepy time to me. Pulled upright at my desk I sit, my elbows digging into it. My chin into my hands doth fit, my careful fingers screen my eyes. And all my work before me lies, which leaves inquisitive passers-by, who glance my way and see me not, to think me wide awake if odd. I could not sell my daily swoon for all the rubies in Rangoon. What sell my swoon, my lovely swoon? Oh, many and many's the afternoon. I've scoured the woods with Daniel Boone and sipped a julep with Lorna Doone. I'd sell my soul before my swoon. It's not for sale, my swoon's immune. From 2 to 3 each afternoon, mine are the mountains of the moon, mine a congenital silver spoon, and I can lead a lost platoon, or dive for pearls in a haunted lagoon, or guide a stratosphere balloon to where the schooner spoons, I spoon. I can talk lion or baboon, or make a crooner cease to croon. I like to swoon, for when I swoon, the universe is my macaroon. Then blessings on thee, my afternoon torpor. Thou makest a prince of a mental torpor. And let's see, we got another one right here. Um, oh, here, this is one I think you like. It's called To a Lady Passing Time That Are Left Unpassed. Oh, lady of the loosened hair, why do you play at solitaire? What imp, what demon misanthrope prompted this session of lonely hope? What boredom drives you? And great load, how can such as you be bored? The gleaming world awaits your eye, while you essay futility. That moth is shaped for livelier sport than paging of a pasteboard court. Why, even the red knave longing lingers while black queens wait in those white fingers. So now the joy that lights your face, squandered on some fortuitous ace, where formerly dark anger burned, when a fire perverse would not be turned. Oh, know you not that darkling frown could topple Caesar's empire down? That quick bright joy, if flushed on men, would sudden build it up again. Get up, throw down the pack, rise in your gown of shining black. Withdraw, my dear, while you are able, the slender feet from beneath the table. Remove from that dreadful baize the elbows curved in cunning ways. Oh, there no game that pleasure brings, but fretting over painted things. Go gay, ecstatic, and anew. But shuffle and begin anew. Get up, I tell you, girl, get up. Wine keeps not ever in the cup. Music is mortal. Comes a day when the musicians will not play. Even love immortal, love undying, find the loved one's patience trying. Get 250 rivals hiss me. For God's sake, girl, come here and kiss me. And um, children aren't happy with nothing to ignore. And that's what parents are created for. And here's one you'd like. There was a young belle of old Natchez whose garments were always in patches. When comment arose on the state of her clothes, she drawled, when ah itches, ah scratches. Okay, let's see. Have we got anything else here? I think that's probably all for today. Um, I do love Ogden Nash, and I recommend him to you anytime. And have a wonderful Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and every day. Bye for now. I just finished.
1 second.